Different from all other militaries, the world's largest armed forces, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, or PLA, doesn't serve China, the country. It serves the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. For as long as the PLA has existed, its control has been the subject of power struggles within the Communist Party. All CCP leaders, from Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping to Xi Jinping, demanded absolute leadership of the PLA, but their control was never unchallenged. Whether the CCP controls the PLA or the PLA controls the CCP is a question that doesn't have an answer. The CCP and the PLA may be engaged in a perpetual tug-of-war that generates no winner. Hello, welcome to Leisrealtalk. I'm Lei. A nation's military serves its people and protects the country from invasion. However, the Chinese Communist Party uses its military as a tool to strengthen political power. For as long as it existed, the PLA's relations with the party have evolved around power struggles. The Chinese PLA was established on August 1, 1927. During the early years, it was known as the Red Fourth Army. The Red Fourth Army had two leaders, Zhu De and Mao Zedong. Zhu was the commander and Mao was the party's political representative. However, the internal dispute about whether Mao or Zhu was the ultimate leader persisted and was not resolved until December 1929 at the Gutian meeting. The meeting established that the CCP commands the military and that Mao ranks higher than Zhu De, the commander. This is the origin of the CCP's expression, "The party commands the gun." The Gutian meeting has thus become a symbol of the party's supreme control over the PLA. However, the relationship between the head of the CCP and his military is not as simple as stated. There were times when the PLA, or the gun, commanded the party. For example, Deng Xiaoping, who didn't assume the top position in the party, ruled China by controlling the military. Deng was the chairman of the Central Military Commission, but didn't hold the position of the party chairman or secretary general. He let Hu Yaobang, Zhao Ziyang, and later Jiang Zemin be the party leader. But none of the three was able to break away from Deng because of Deng's control of the PLA. In other words, Deng commanded the party by controlling the gun. Being able to control the gun has become the focal point of CCP's power struggles. During the Cultural Revolution, Madame Mao and her gang of four were politically ambitious but didn't have the military support. They tried to establish a second armed force made up of militiamen and blue-collar workers, but it was no match for the PLA. After Mao died, Deng Xiaoping, together with Ye Jianying, who was then the vice chairman of the Military Commission, and Hua Guofeng, Mao's chosen successor, overthrew Madame Mao and her gang. During the coup d'etat, Ye Jianying's influence in the PLA played an extremely important role. If Deng Xiaoping didn't have the PLA's support, he couldn't have succeeded. At the time, Deng Xiaoping was neither the head of the party nor of the PLA. But his opponent, Hua Guofeng, was the chairman of the party, the chairman of the Military Commission, and the premier of the State Council. But he lacked real command of the gun and was therefore ousted by Deng. So you see, Deng Xiaoping successfully staged two coups d'etat to overthrow Mao's wife and chosen heir by having the support of the military. The PLA's gun can command the party as long as the military leader is audacious enough. Recognizing the problem that the PLA is an armed force serving the party and China, the country, didn't have a military, Deng Xiaoping established the Central Military Commission of the state, and he became its first chairman. But this commission is identical to the Military Commission of the party and exists only in name. Years later, some individuals proposed to change the commandship of the PLA from the party to the state, but that idea was struck down by the party.
Listening to the sound of shots.
Had been building all day Saturday after some early skirmishes between students and soldiers.
5 months after the Tiananmen Square massacre, Deng Xiaoping passed the party's chairmanship of the military commission to Jiang Zemin in November 1989. Even though Jiang became the leader of the party and the PLA, he was still in Deng's shadow and had no control of the PLA. The PLA was controlled by the vice chairman of the military commission, Yang Shangkun, and his brother, Yang Baibing, who was the commission's secretary. The young brothers were Deng's allies and the de facto leaders of the PLA. In 1991, the former Soviet Union disintegrated. This frightened Jiang Zemin, who then moved China further to the left, away from Deng Xiaoping's reforms and opening up. This infuriated Deng, but Deng had already relinquished all of his power to Jiang and held no official position. To reinstate his reform policy, Deng Xiaoping resorted to the PLA for support. His ally in the PLA, Yang Shangkun, accompanied him on a tour of southern China. Meanwhile, Yang's brother collected signatures from 100 generals in support of the reforms. The PLA media outlets sent stern warnings to Jiang Zemin with the message, whoever doesn't carry forward economic reforms should move over. Jiang got scared and begged Deng for forgiveness, but his resentment toward the young brothers was thus developed. Jiang's deputy, Zheng Qinghong, designed a scheme to sow distrust between the young brothers and Deng Xiaoping, then eventually replaced the brothers with two new vice chairmen in the military commission, General Liu Huaqin and Zhang Zhen. It was only after Deng died that Jiang Zemin promoted Guo Boxiong and Xu Caihou, who notoriously corrupt generals, to the posts of vice chairman. Under their leadership, everything in the PLA was up for sale, and corruption ran systemic. Hu Jintao succeeded Jiang Zemin as the next CCP leader for 10 years, but only held the chairmanship of the military commission for 8 years. Jiang didn't want to give up the control of the PLA and delayed the power transfer for 2 more years. Even when Jiang eventually gave the job to Hu Jintao, who still had no control of the PLA, because his two vice chairmen, Guo Boxiong and Xu Caihou, were Jiang Zemin's cronies. You can say that during Hu Jintao's 10-year rule, Jiang Zemin remained powerful by controlling the PLA and the gun. By the time Xi Jinping assumed power, he faced the same problem as Hu Jintao. He had no control of the PLA. In the name of anti-corruption, Xi Jinping went about to clean out the Jiang Zemin's faction in the military. Jiang's two vice chairmen, Guo Boxiong and Xu Caihou, along with Fang Fenghui, the chief of staff of the Joint Staff Department, and Zhang Yang, the director of the Political Work Department of the Military Commission, are the highest-ranking generals Xi Jinping took down. Since the 18th Party Congress in 2012, nearly 160 officers at the vice military level and above have been removed for investigation. In 2015, she launched a military reform with the goal to further dismantle the power circles within the PLA left by his political enemies. But the question is, 11 years after being the party leader and cleaning out corruption, does Xi Jinping have a good command of the PLA right now? My answer is, it doesn't look like it. In October 2014, the CCP held another meeting in Gutian, the so-called the New Gutian meeting, at the request of Xi Jinping. The meeting reminded people that the party should command the gun. This indicates a problem that the PLA wasn't following Xi Jinping, the new party leader. Recently, Xi Jinping again referred to the Gutian meeting, and the PLA Daily voiced his frustration with the PLA loud and clear in an editorial on August the 3rd. Our army is armed with weapons and is a military group that carries out the party's political tasks. Loyalty to the party must be singular, complete, unconditional, free from any impurity, and without any exaggerations. I think the CCP leader would never cease to have conflicts with his military, precisely because his military serves the party and not the country. Because the CCP is forever embroiled in power struggles and political purging, It's constantly creating division and mistrust within its military. How can the PLA officers and servicemen be loyal and remain motivated that way? If the PLA were to serve the country, it might be more loyal. But we know Xi Jinping will continue to demand absolute loyalty to him and to the party, and this may be the cause of all the problems. In the next program, we'll talk about Xi Jinping's military reform and how he tried to gain more control through the reform, but might have just achieved the opposite result. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.